Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intentional Productivity Tips. I am Megan. I am your very favorite strategic productivity partner, and I want to thank you for spending time with me today, thinking and being intentional with your productivity. Today, we are going to connect productivity with project management, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to make projects succeed. Has anyone here ever worked on a project with a group of people and maybe run into some challenges? Can that be frustrating? And how does that work to get that project done? Not very well. So today I'm going to share with you 7 steps that I promise if you use will set your projects up for success when you're a project manager working remote or even working with a group of people. So that is our topic today. But before we get to that, I would like to welcome you to our USA Global and TV, I would like to welcome you to USA Global TV and Radio's YouTube network, where you are watching me. Please like, subscribe, comment, be notified when new episodes drop. You will find intentional productivity tips every Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Also, check out the other shows. There's a lot of great hosts and a lot of great information to help you become the best person that you want to be in your life. And isn't that what it's all about? It absolutely is. So let's get started. So as you know, and as I've mentioned multiple times, I have been a strategic productivity partner, your favorite, since 2014. But before that, I started working in operations and project management. For me, project management and productivity have kind of always gone together because there is a lot of information that we need when working with projects to be productive. And there's a lot of project information we can learn when we're looking at our own productivity. So today we're specifically going to look at 7 steps to delegation and accountability in group projects. Anytime you're working on a project with a group. And isn't that important? So today we are going to talk about 4 things surrounding these 7 steps, because I promise you, if you follow and use these steps, your projects are going to be completed with less stress. And isn't that what we're all about? So we're talking about 4 things today. We are going to talk about accountability that works. We're going to talk about 7 steps that deliver. We're going to talk and we're going to look at watching. We're going to see the 7 steps in action. And then we're going to talk, make it happen, applying those 7 steps in your life. Because we know that great projects do not happen by accident. And we know when we are doing projects these days that there is more information, more access, and we need things faster than ever before. So we really want to look at what is the best way and why is it so important, right? How many times have you been asked by someone, hey, do you want to be a part of this project team? Now, when someone asks you that, what are your opinions or what is your response? Many people I work with are like, ugh, with other people. And then there are some people who are like, great, I love working with other people. So let's talk a little bit about how we can work together in projects to make sure that we're completing and getting done what we need. Why does it work, right? Why does it work to have 7 steps? And why is it important that we're intentional when it comes to project management and how we operate with each other, right? Why is it so important? Let's be honest, the remote reality. One of the reasons it's so important is because of the remote reality. I will be honest, I have aged myself before. I started working in project management in 1990s. Project management in the 1990s and working in the work world in the 1990s and in 2025, very different, right? We have more accessibility. We have the remote reality is we can work with people in multiple time zones, in multiple continents, in multiple countries, having never seen them. And we're expected to get work done and hand off a finished project like it's a beautiful symphony, right? So when we're doing that and knowing the reality of the remote world adds some complexity. So we want to look at it. How can we make it better? How, if we're working remote, if I'm working with someone in India right now, which I am, how can I make sure that both of our needs are being met so our project is being complete, right? Then we want to think about the challenge. The challenge in this day and age with project management absolutely can be distance, limited face-to-face time. Competing priorities. We know people have more that they're doing. Especially, there's been several years when I've been a freelance project manager. So I've had multiple clients and multiple projects running at the same time. Have you ever had that? We know that the challenge of remote work and working on projects can be the fact that we have distance and limited face-to-face. Maybe we've never seen them face-to-face before. Then we need to realize and ask ourselves, another challenge is, what is the project manager's role in a remote world, right? When we think about it, how has a project manager's world changed because of things like CRMs and productivity tools? We look at it and the project manager's role has changed. And we also, when we're thinking about remote projects and success, we need to think, how can we make sure we're going to be successful? What is a promise we can make to ourselves? And I'm going to say it's 7 steps that I'm going to share with you. If we look at the reality of the remote world, or we look at the reality of projects in today's world, this can happen with your face-to-face or if you're working in different countries. We know that there are challenges to working together on a project. So what we want to do is take control of those challenges from the beginning and be intentional. See, so this is how this is coming into productivity and intentional productivity tips. If we're intentional with our project management steps, it's going to save time and make us more productive. So let's look at the 7 steps. I'll be honest, I learned about these steps when I was, I can't remember the exact year. It was in the mid-90s when I was working in employment services for a company called Curtis & Associates. We were introduced to this theory and it was called the stewardship model at the time. I'm sure there's other names for it. There's other things. I liked the stewardship model. But the reason I'm bringing that up is I have used these steps for a very long time and they have worked. One of the reasons I'm bringing it up is we know the work world has changed a lot in the last 30 years. But we also know some things have stayed the same. And so that's why I want to introduce these specific 7 steps to delegation and accountability, because if we plan, if we perform, if we perfect, we're going to be able to make it happen. So let's look at what these 7 steps are. They start over here with align, assign, allocate, allow, assess, adjust, and accountable. So those are the 7 steps. Again, align, assign, allocate, allow, assess, adjust, and accountable. Now, I didn't create it, but I love the fact that they're all A's just because that works with my vibe. But it's important to think, what are these 7 steps and how can we look at them? So let's go ahead and break into them right now. So again, remember, the picture and the visual is we're working on a group project. It might be remote or it might be in person. How can we make sure we're going to be set up for success? So let's look at the 7 steps, what they are and why they work. So step 1, we identified with align. So we're going to talk through these 7 steps and I'm going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about what it is, why it is, and then we're going to share a project manager tip off because we know, or a project manager tip, because we know sometimes as project managers, we love to have suggestions and tips. And this is specifically for us. So the first step in setting a project up for success, the first step must be align, right? What does align mean? Well, align means that we are getting everyone on the same page. We're clear on the who, the what, the when, the why, the where, and the how. Aligning is getting everyone on the same page. Why? Because if we don't share the same expectations, we are never going to be headed in the same direction. We might finish a project, but it's not going to be clear and there's going to be some hiccups, right? So we know that expectations and having set shared expectations allow us to deliver similar outcomes. And that's what we want in a project. So let's talk about this from a project manager's perspective. Let's put our project manager hat on, right? So if we're thinking of a project manager tip for Align, one thing I recommend is after you've had your kickoff meeting, after your project, you've gotten and you're ready to go, you've met everyone, I send out an Align statement. And I actually say, I call it, this is our alignment statement. And I tell people, this is what we're doing on the project. Again, this is the what, who, why, when, where, how much, all of the details. And I send it to everyone because then everyone is on the same page. If anyone has questions, then they can ask and we can readdress. But it's important that we start with alignment. Step 2, assign. So what is that? We clearly need to assign ownership of tasks with deadlines. We need to give the ownership to who is going to be responsible for it. We need to have their name next to who's responsible for it so people see it, right? Why do we need to do this? If ownership is vague, work will slip. If ownership is vague, there's very few times when I'm going to guarantee something to happen, but this is one of them. If you don't assign clearly tasks in project management when you're working on projects, it's going to cause issues down the road. We need to specifically know who's going to work on it. Now, from a project manager tip perspective, this is where we want to use our project management tools. It is 2025. We have an amazing amount of tools: Monday, Odoo, Asana, Trello, ClickUp, right? Right. There are so many. Jira. The tools we have are great. So now we need to use them. And one of the things project managers need to do is we need to assign tasks clearly in the tool that we're all using and that we all have access to, because then we have it clear and people are able to see it. There's no questions. It's very clear and it's very explicit. So step 1, align. Step 2, assign. Step 3, now this is another important one, allocate. We need to allocate the resources, the information, whatever anybody needs to be able to do the project. We need to allocate that. So we need to make sure that every person on the project has what they need. They have the resources, they have access, they have information, they have time to do it. They're not expected to work on this while they're doing 3 other things. That doesn't work in projects, does it? So we need to allocate. Without resources, talent can't deliver, right? Think about some projects you've been on. And I will give a specific example of a project. I was in San Antonio. We were putting on an event. So a group of us came from around the country, flew to San Antonio to put on an amazing event several years ago. And everything happened except for allocated, right? We were not allocated the money we needed, the specific cash money. We had everything lined up to get vendors and everything into this event, but we didn't have money. It hadn't been allocated to us. So you know what? It caused some problems. And we lost some vendors and it caused us to have to rework. So allocating is essential. If we don't have the resources, we can't do the job. Expecting someone to be MacGyver and come up with magic is not how we want to go into projects. That's not successful project management. That is a bystander and that happens sometimes, but that's not our goal. So when it comes to how can project managers, what is our tip? What can we do to help with the allocation process, right? We can create a resource readiness checklist for every major task. And we can make sure, okay, what are the things that we're going to need? And we can add those checks and balances in. So after allocate, the 4th step is allow. Now, this is when the magic happens, right? This is when we need to say, okay, you've been assigned and you've been allocated. You have the resources you need. You know what the assignment is. Now we're going to allow you to do it. This is where you give people space and you trust them to do their job. Why? Because if we micromanage, it's going to kill morale, 100%. Now, project managers, let's talk heart to heart for just a second, right? Let's think about this. We know that as project managers, we're very curious people. We know as project managers, some might consider us control freaks. I don't. We know as project managers, we're very interested. And so sometimes step 4, allow, can be a challenge because that's where we need to hands off and just let them do what they're doing, right? And this is where, and why I'm spending so much time on it, project managers, is because this is where we can either build or we can reduce trust. So, and I've done this, and I'm sure others have. When it's that allow and people are working on the project, maybe we just poke them. How's it going? What you doing? How are you? Right? Don't do that. Don't do that, project manager. We want to allow them to do it, because if we say hands off and allow you to do it, what that's going to do is that's going to build trust with our teammates. And that's what we want to do. If we hammer and hammer and hammer, and if we nitpick and micromanage, we're reducing trust, right? We all have trust bank accounts. We make withdrawals, we make deposits, or we make deposits and we make withdrawals. And so what we want to be sure is we want to be sure that when we are working with our project team, that we're giving them the space. So allow can be most challenging for project managers. I'll be honest. So that's why we wanted to have that heart to heart. Replace hovering. What we want to allow, we'll have our sprints and our follow-up meetings, absolutely, but we want to give them space. Another tip, if you give them space, which is good, what you want, and then they reach out to you and they need something, be responsive. That is, again, where we can build. Disallow step. Why I'm spending so much time on it. Disallow step is where we can really build trust, because we're available, but we're not nitpicking. And that is what people want in their projects. When I think of project management, I always think of that golden rule: do unto others as you would want them to do to you. Be a project manager or a project teammate to others as you would want them to be to you. Sadly, we know not everyone follows this, but if we're following these 7 steps, it's going to be closer. Step 5, assess. So we've allowed the work, then we need to have key assessment times, right? So this is why what we're doing is we're scheduling status updates. We might be scheduling stand-ups. We might be scheduling sprint reviews, right? We're going to schedule time where we're going to actually assess how the project is going. Why? We want to do it along the way. We don't want to wait till the end because we don't want to be surprised. We want to see the progress and what's going on. And so assessing and having assessment points, again, a stand-up, a sprint review, a meeting, or a status update, it allows us to see the progress, and it allows us to see if is everything on track, or do we need to make any adjustments? That's where step number 6 comes in, right? After we've assessed and we've been honest with everyone, and the entire team needs to be a part of it. There's been times when I've worked on teams and they're like, oh, not everyone needs to be a part of assessing. We're not going to have those tech people in it, right? We're not going to have them involved in it. And I always say that is a huge mistake, because when it comes to step 5 and step 6, you need everyone, and people who have information, critical information, you need them to be there. And so we want to, step 5, once we assess, step 6, then we're going to adjust, right? One we're going to adjust is what we've identified in assessment. We're going to take and adjust based on the team's input. What we're going to do is we're going to use the status updates and the information people have learned along the way. So we're going to adjust. Do we need to maybe use a different tool? Do we need to bring in a different person? Do we need to change an expectation? Is there something we need to do? Why we want to clearly have adjust as a step is because any adjustments, we want to make sure that they're thorough. We want to communicate with them, with the team and our customer, our company, whoever needs to be communicated. And again, all on the same page, right? One tip as a project manager when it comes to adjusting, document all of the adjustments that you make. Add a project record of these are the things that happened, this is what we learned, and this is how we adjusted. Documenting it will do a couple of things. 1, it helps you stay track on the project then, and 2, it will help you in future projects, right? Because you can learn from them. So now we are all the way to step 6. We have just assessed, we have adjusted, and now the 7th step is at the end of the project, and as we're going, we need to hold people accountable. What do I mean when I'm saying hold people accountable? And actually, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not just going to say people. We want to hold the project accountable. So what we want to do is we want to recognize what went well and celebrate. We want to identify gaps, and if there were things that didn't go well. Consistent accountability builds reliability and trust. What we're doing is we're holding the project accountable. Now, there's been several times when we get to the accountability stage, and I've had people who are like, oh, I don't want to go there. I'm going to get in trouble. When I'm saying accountability, I don't mean you're in trouble to the plank with you. That's not what we mean. We're saying we are now done with the project and we want to hold ourselves accountable. What went well? What can we learn? What can we do next time? And so that's why that 7th step is accountability. So if we look at it, again, the 7 steps: align, start with the clear goal and mission for everyone. Assign, give people what they need to do the project. Allocate, give them the resources, the money, the access, whatever they need. Allow, give them the time. Then assess, how is it going? Adjust and hold the project and the team accountable for how you can be better next time and what went really well. Why is this so important? Clear delegation turns chaos into collaboration. And it's not just me saying it, the numbers say it too. Fact is, 50% less rework for teams comes with clear task ownership in a project, right? So teams do 50% less rework if they have clearly assigned tasks and ownership. Now, wouldn't you like to do less rework in a project? I know I would, because I don't enjoy it. And so knowing that these 7 steps will help with less rework, and 33% of teams and people are more likely to finish on time with clear delegation. So we know that assigning ownership and delegating, so aligning, assigning, and allocating is important. It not only works for us, but it works for the team and for everybody as well. And that's what's important. So what we want to do is let's look at this in action. So let's look at the 7 project steps in action. Let's look at a project, how the 7 steps were applied and how it was actually a useful thing. So let's create a scenario. Let's say we're managing a cross-functional team, delivering a new software feature with members in 4 different time zones. So what do we want to do? Right? So we've got a cross-functional team. It's a software feature, and we have people in different time zones. So let's walk through the 7 steps, right? So how do the 7 steps? Align. We want to have a clear kickoff meeting with a brief and shared document that explains what it is that we're looking from this new software feature. We want to make sure at the beginning of the meeting, at this first step, align, make sure everyone understands what we need and what we're looking from this software feature. Then we want to assign, and this is where we would use tasks like Jira. Use Jira to assign tasks by name and give deadlines, right? So as a group, we're going to assign the tasks. Then we're going to follow up in Jira and say, here's your task and here's your deadline. Then we're going to allocate. We're going to make sure that everyone has the server credentials they need. Do they have shared document designs, SME contacts, right? What information do they need to be able to finish that new feature? We want to allocate that, right? Then fourth, we're going to say, you know what you're doing. You've been assigned. You have the resources. Go forth, conquer. I'm going to allow you to do it. Go forth and make that. And this is now, as a project manager who works with technical people, and I am not technical, this is where I say things that I know are sometimes offensive to them, where I'm like, go forth and do your thing. I get that's not my thing, but I mean that respectfully, right? I want you to go forth and conquer. Then again, after we've allowed, we're going to have assess. We're going to have a mid-sprint stand-up. We're going to review progress and blockers. And at that point, anyone's going to be able to look at their progress and share their blockers. Then what we're going to do is we're going to adjust. Is there something we need to adjust on? Oh, hey, maybe we need another person on this. Oh, wait, maybe we need more testing. Maybe we need more scenarios, right? What is it that we need more? And then we're going to give it, right? We're going to design, we're going to shift the design, or we're going to support another team member. We're going to make sure that we're able to take care of that delay. And then 7th, that sprint review, we're going to recognize the high performers, and we're going to set performance improvements. And we're going to say, hey, next time we need to know that it takes 3 people to test, not 2. We're going to know that we need to have 14 scenarios, not 2. We're going to have that specific information. One of the whole goals of this has been, the goal and the idea is to be intentional when you're working on a project, and that you're intentional with the group, and that you are communicating. When you think about it, there is one common step between all of these, and it is communication and clear communication. That's what's so important. So how do you use this on your next project? What I would say pre-project, add these 7 steps to your project management playlist or checklist or playbook. I would say during the project, keep the steps visible. And I actually have had a business card for a very long time. So I knew what those 7 steps were. Post-project, review where you follow the process. Again, talk about it. And then a professional tip is, the more remote and fast-paced the project, the more critical it is to follow each step, right? So the more remote that we are, and we know that time zones are impacted, it's more important that we follow these next steps. And I would say I learned that when I was working at Upwork. I, at the time, lived in northern San Diego County. And so I was on the West Coast. I was the last person to work to close out the day out on the West Coast. And then I would start and hand off the day to somebody in Japan. And so one of the nice things that happened is we were able to use these 7 steps as a handoff to end one day and start the next. So when you think about it, making it happen and applying these 7 steps, it's about communicating clearly, and it's about being intentional, and it's making sure that everyone's on the same page. Because when you go back and look at projects, you can identify, were we all aligned? Did we know where we were headed with this? And there's going to be times when the answer is no, and we know that's where we need to start. I hope that this has been a useful and helpful process for you to think about these 7 steps. When we think about it, productivity isn't just about productivity. Productivity is how we operate everywhere, specifically and also in project management. And so that's why today I wanted to spend this time with you talking about these 7 steps. And I hope that they work for you. As every week, my goal is that you have one takeaway that you can incorporate into your life. And this week, I would hope it is to be intentional and to be in alignment when it comes to your projects. I am Megan. I am your very favorite strategic productivity partner. I want to thank you for being here with me today. I want to thank you for joining and taking this time to think about how can I improve myself? Because isn't that what this life is all about? You are watching me on Intentional Productivity Tips. I am on USA Global TV and Radio's YouTube channel. Please come back next week, where I will be, and we're going to talk next week a little bit about intentional productivity and what is it? Why do I keep saying that? That's what we're going to talk about next week. I hope that your projects go a little bit smoother this week, and I hope that your time is yours and that you use your time to make your life better. Thank you again for being here. I want to say I will see you next week, and now here's a word from our sponsors.
Get ready to wear the brand that's changing the world of media. Introducing the official USA Global TV and Radio online store. From our TV show hosts to our incredible global guests, you asked, we delivered. Rep your appearance with pride. Whether you've been on air, hosted a show, or tuned in, we have something just for you. Visit us at usaglobaltvradiosshop.myspreadshop.com and start shopping today. Check back frequently. We're dropping fresh new designs all the time. Showcase your role in our global community. These designs celebrate your voice, your story, your presence. It's more than just merchandise. It's a movement of hope, inspiration, education, and elevated listening. Head to usaglobaltvradiosshop.myspreadshop.com. Your spotlight awaits. USA Global TV and Radio. Elevate your style. Elevate the world.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.